You all know me.
We don't.
No.
Oh.
What are you? I call you Tracy sometimes.
I know you do. It's okay, I'll answer to it. My journey began in 2014. There is a strong family history of cancer in my family. With my mother, my grandmother, my great aunts, my aunts. And so at age 40, I was put through a screening program. We went through genetics and what have you. There was no genetic BRCA1 or BRCA2, which is the common breast cancer. There was none of that. But my other sisters were also on the screening program. I'll come to that later. So on the 5th of November, I was shopping in Inverness with my friend Michelle, getting party outfits for her father's birthday party, fancy dress. I had an appointment earlier on in the day for something else, and then I got my screening afterwards, later on. And I was saying to Michelle, oh, I don't think I'm going to go on, we haven't got his outfits yet, we haven't got it. And she's like, no, we'll just go. So we went. When I was there, I found a lump. I hadn't noticed the lump. And they said you can either go away and come back tomorrow, or come back later and have a biopsy done. So I had a biopsy done. Michelle held my hand. Wasn't very nice for her. And then it was like, yeah, you've got cancer. It wasn't really a shock after I got the lump, because I knew with family history that, you know, 2 out of 3 of us were going to get it because it's such a high rate. So I then went on to have what's called a lumpectomy, where they take a section off and they take like the lump away. That went off to pathology, and it came back that it was an aggressive form. So it was a case of, let's get you on treatment. When it came back, it also showed that I didn't have clear margins, which is the area around the cancer that it wasn't clear. So they had to get me straight onto the chemo within about 4 weeks, and I had 5 sessions of that. I couldn't have the 6th one because I had sepsis due to what's called a PICC line, which is a line that goes in your arm, and the chemo goes through it, and it stops some of the damage of your veins. Because a lot of chemo, goes through, it can make your veins collapse and weaken and harden and what have you. So it then becomes difficult to, for example, get blood or get intravenous things put through you. Then, because I didn't have clear margins, I had a full mastectomy. Now, for the decision on this was, my mother had cancer, and she had a lumpectomy to start with, and then she had to have a mastectomy. So I just thought, just get rid of it and it's gone. Then this mastectomy that I was having what's called a DEP reconstruction. It's where they take things from your tummy, the skin and the fat from your tummy, and move it to your boob to make a new boob. This was done in Livingston because it isn't done up in Maggie. Unfortunately, that failed. So 3 days after I had that, I had to go back to theatre and have an implant put in because the blood vessels weren't good enough. It wasn't feeding it, so the tissue was going to die. I then came back home. I didn't have radiotherapy because it was a trek for me, and I've been away from my family for quite a while, so I didn't want to have that being away from them again. So that is where my treatment ended, but I still go for regular mammograms down to Redmore, still calling at Maggie's for a cup of tea and a chat, which, I mean, they are really good, very supportive, very, very supportive, and they become friends. But yeah, that's just the hardest part for me, I think, was telling my children. That was the hardest part. Because I remember my son turning around to me and saying, We were sat around the kitchen table. Are you gonna die? I'm like, oh, organise this. And I went, "That's it." So, but yeah. So that's about it. And the rest of you see me know that it hasn't affected my gob. I'm still loud, I'm still gobby. But yeah, here to tell the tale. So check your boobies. You've all got a thing in front of you and it says know your breasts. Read it, take note of it. If you've got sisters, daughters, mothers, aunties, take one for them too. Because any change whatsoever, you've got to get it checked out. It's not always a lump. It could be dimpling. It could be like orange peel skin. It can be an inverted nipple. It can be, so if something's not right, you know it's not right. You've got to check yourself to know if something's not right. So, go feel your boobies. I'll get someone else to. Not you, sorry.
Thank you, Theresa. Okay, Ailey, are you happy to say a bit about Maggie's now?
Yes, I will do. So I'll say a wee bit about Maggie's. Well, firstly, thank you very much, Theresa, for sharing that with us. It's so important to hear from someone like yourself who's been through a breast cancer diagnosis and your experience, and for folks to see how you are now as well. I know you've talked just very briefly, and but there's lots of significant things that you have said. And what I'll do is, as I say, I'll talk about how Maggie started, what happens through the centre here, and a little bit about our programme and the different elements to it, and why it's there. Where it's situated just next to Raigmore Hospital, where the unusually shaped green building. And I'll tell you a bit about Maggie. Was a person herself, and she had a breast cancer diagnosis. And this was about maybe about 30 years ago or so. And she was living down in Edinburgh, and she had a young family at the time as well. And when she was diagnosed, naturally she was very upset, and she was told in the hospital about her diagnosis, and she was very upset, and she was told, she was crying, she was told, actually, you're upsetting other people, can you go into the toilet because you're crying? And so through her experiences, she wanted a really lovely place where people could go. So someone who was experiencing cancer themselves, but also their friends and family, that wasn't a clinical environment, that was nice spaces to be. And the first Maggie's Centre was built in Edinburgh, in the grounds of the Western General Hospital, because that's where she was getting her treatment for breast cancer. Unfortunately, her breast cancer developed to non-curative advanced cancer. And before she died, there was plans for the first Maggie's Centre. And it was on the site of where there was a shed in the hospital grounds. So before she died, she got to see the plans of the centre. And at that time, I guess it wasn't envisaged that there would be any other centres. This was the first. And architecturally designed, so it's a nice space to come into. I don't know if any of you, I know Theresa, you've been in, which is great, but maybe some others have been in that are in the room today. But it is a beautiful building to be in a calm environment, and we've got a lovely garden as well. So that was 25 years ago, and now we've got Maggie's centres throughout Scotland, England, and we've got one in Barcelona, one in Hong Kong, and one in Norway. So it's really expanded. So the concept that Maggie came up with at the start is really thriving, and we're able to support a lot of people and families. So I just wanted to give you a potted history about the start. I think it's very relevant in the fact that Theresa's talking about breast cancer today as well. So here in Inverness, so we cover the whole of the Highlands. So I was absolutely delighted that Sarah got in touch with us with Connecting Carers, because although we're based in Inverness, we cover the whole of the Highlands. So We've always wanted to have more of an online presence. So today it's great to be able to speak to you all, and I'm in the centre here and you're where you are. So we've always wanted to do that, but because of the pandemic, this happened overnight. So all of the elements of our programme, and we can do one-to-one support over Zoom and also the telephone, can happen online. So everyone, if they've got online access, wherever you are, can be supported by Maggie's. The only element of the programme at the moment that you can't tap into is the walking group, for obvious reasons, because they leave from the building here. But absolutely everything is accessible for you. We're quite a small team, so my name's Ailey and I'm a nurse, and we're known as cancer support specialists at Maggie's because in my role there could be an occupational therapist or a radiographer, for example. So anyone who's had experience in their career with cancer nursing. So there's myself and there's Pamela, who Theresa knows very well. So we're the two cancer support specialists, and then we've got Shaunad, our centre head. She is a radiographer and she's got qualifications in psychotherapy. We've got a psychologist, Jack, and a brilliant benefits advisor called Lorna. And we've got two fundraisers, and that's our team. So we're a nice kind of wee team. And yeah, so I'll start to talk a bit more about breast cancer in general. We support anyone with any type of cancer, and also not many people know this, but even if someone's going through investigations, so if you happen to be in Inverness and you've gone for your breast screening, for example, and maybe they've asked you to come back for further imaging, and you're concerned that you may be about to have a cancer diagnosis that may not end up being cancer, but if you're worried about it, you're very welcome to come in here and chat with us or give us a phone. And we support people all the way through their cancer journey. Some folks will come to us very early on, and others might come a few years after they've been treated and after their cancer diagnosis. Wait a minute. So with breast cancer, you can be diagnosed in, I guess, different ways. So it could be through the screening system. So every woman over the age of 50 is offered breast screening, and I highly recommend that you go along. And the idea of that is to, if there's anything there, to catch it as early as possible. So it's very treatable. And then, like Theresa said, you were diagnosed through the family history clinic. You were getting sort of being monitored closely and diagnosed that way. And others may come through the symptomatic clinic, so where you may have discovered a lump yourself or a change in your breast and want to get that checked out. And we're really fortunate in the Highlands that certainly up until now, and hopefully on to the future, that from going to your GP with a concern regarding your breast, it won't be long before you're referred to the breast unit to get assessed. So we're very fortunate. So I'll talk a little bit about when someone is diagnosed, and you're very welcome to chip in at any point, Theresa, or if anyone wants to ask any questions, put your hand up, you can pop it in chat, or I can stop at any point. But yeah, there's lots of different emotions when someone's diagnosed. And as Theresa had said, for her, the worst thing was telling her son, telling family and friends. And that can be particularly difficult because when someone's diagnosed, they're just kind of taking in the news themselves, and how to explain it to others is really hard when you're not sure yourself what it's all about and how it's affecting you. There's a whole range of emotions, and there's no right emotions at the time. Some people can feel very numb, not feel anything. Others can feel very angry, very fearful, very anxious, sort of feelings of, am I going to die? It's a real time of living with uncertainty, and it can affect someone's identity of who we are. So up until a cancer diagnosis, you're kind of, kind of know where you are in the world, I suppose, depending on what's happening in life, your role in the family, if you're working, all the different things, aspects to your life with a cancer diagnosis plonked in the middle of that, it affects every area. And yeah, as I say, can be lots of emotions. Sometimes someone might feel guilty for having a cancer diagnosis for the effect it's having on their friends and family and their situations. So here at Maggie's is a really good kind of open space where all these emotions can be talked about, and actually it doesn't feel normal, any of these things, but we can reassure people that actually what they're experiencing is normal for having had a cancer diagnosis, and we can sort of help support people to navigate through all these emotions and these different effects. And we're all about supporting people to help themselves in the situation that they're in. And so also through a cancer diagnosis, so relationships can be affected. So sometimes some relationships become much closer as a result, and others can be a bit more distanced as well. And what we do advise, so back to what Theresa was saying about telling her son, is we sometimes give quite a lot of support around that, and we advise being open and honest as you can, and you know, saying that you don't have all the answers, but in being open and honest with children, it helps, and adult children as well, it helps them to trust you and to be able to speak to you about and ask questions as well. It just opens up communication and helps everyone support each other. We've got quite a lot of resources here, so if it's young children or teenagers, young adults, there's quite a few resources online, or we've got books that can help as well. As I mentioned, we have a really good benefits advisor here, Lorna, because with a cancer diagnosis, if someone's working, that can be affected. If you're at home more, due to being the effects of cancer treatments, you might need to have your heating on more in the house, things like that. So it can be a financial aspect to having had a cancer diagnosis. You might need to be traveling more as well. So it's really good to look and see if you're entitled to any benefits. And there's quite a lot out there to explore. There's different types of breast cancer. A lot of people don't realise, they think, oh, breast cancer, that's just the one type, but there's different types and stages as well, and depending on that, there's different treatments. So for some people, surgery may be their main treatment, and they might not require anything else other than that, and that might be a lumpectomy, so just removing the specific area where there is cancer cells, where there's a tumour. For others, like Theresa, you mentioned you had a mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. So there's different types of surgery as well. And quite often the lymph nodes under the arm are investigated just to see if the cancer has gone there. And if it has, then, for example, chemotherapy may be more likely a treatment. So there's 5 main treatments for breast cancer, and depending on the type and stage and grade, an individual will have a variation of these treatments. So there's surgery, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, there's anti-hormone tablets. Some cancers are responsive to estrogen in the body, so by lowering the levels of estrogen, then that's reducing the risk or chance of the cancer coming back. And then there's also a drug called Herceptin, which blocks a protein in your body, which may encourage cancer to grow. So some people are on Herceptin injections for quite a while. And the thing with breast cancer, if someone hasn't been unwell, if they don't have any other health conditions that are causing problems, what can happen is it's the breast cancer treatments that are making them feel unwell. So for example, the chemotherapy or having a lengthy surgery, you know, the recovery time after that. So psychologically, that can be hard to think, you know, the side effects of treatments can sometimes have long-term effects as well as short-term. And as I say, it's not quite often, it's not the cancer that's making someone unwell, it's the treatments. And the recovery time, which I'll go into a bit more detail. That's a time of trying to learn to trust your body again. And when you have the side effects of treatments, you're thinking, is that actually due to the cancer? Is that, has cancer come back already? So there's quite a mind game that goes on. There's lots of other ways of describing it. I'm sure you can describe it much better, Theresa, but there's lots that happens emotionally and psychologically at all stages of having a cancer diagnosis. So I'll talk a bit. Has anyone got any sort of questions at this point? Or no? Okay. Our programme is quite extensive. You can see it if you go online, or if you become a friend on Facebook with us. If we could just look up Maggie's Highlands, we've got quite a lot happening during the week. We've got this a new session happening each week called Prehab, or Getting Ready, and that's for anyone who in the Highlands who will be diagnosed with cancer, and that could be breast cancer or any type of cancer. And this session is literally, as it says, sort of thinking of different elements to get ready for treatment. So things like it's okay to keep active and to take exercise if you're feeling up to that. It's okay to continue with that. We look at the sort of emotional and well-being aspects, how to sort of help with the stress and anxiety around diagnosis. And we also look into nutrition, sort of talking about a balanced diet, but also speaking individually as to what may help each person. We also have a couple of getting started sessions, so a getting started with chemotherapy and also getting started with radiotherapy as well. We have relaxation and mindfulness. So for anyone who hasn't tried relaxation and mindfulness, these are practices which help reduce stress levels and anxiety. Also things like going for a walk. You'll find you have your own ways in life of what helps, speaking to friends and family and sort of being out in nature. But there's something about, until I came to Maggie's, I hadn't really, life's very busy, I hadn't really sat still with my thoughts much. So doing relaxation, it just kind of helps you to pause. There's a relaxing element of watching television, for example, but you can't always concentrate on that. But there's something about being in silence or listening to soothing music. And with relaxation, you go on a guided imagery and you focus more on your breathing. And in time, these practices really help reduce sort of the adrenaline levels in your body when you're stressed and anxious. And it's something you can do yourself at home, but here we can sort of talk you through how it works. And so we've got Zoom sessions on that throughout the week, and mindfulness as well. And mindfulness is about not trying to ignore your thoughts, because as soon as you tell yourself not to be thinking about a worry, of course that's what you're going to be thinking about. But with mindfulness is just being aware your thoughts are there, but focusing more on your breathing and sort of different elements like that. So you're not ignoring your thoughts, but by doing that, you can be aware of them and then help process them. In particular for breast cancer, we've got a breast cancer network group, and I don't know if you tapped into that at all, Theresa. We've got a monthly breast cancer network group where the breast care nurse specialists, they Zoom in as well, and it's a really good opportunity for women to meet others who have had a diagnosis. And there may be some women who are further along that have finished their treatment. There might be someone who's way at the beginning, and it's a good support group for each other, but it's also facilitated by Pamela as well. And as I say, the specialist nurses are in there too, so you get expert knowledge, and if you've got any questions, then they can be asked at that time as well. And we've got a young women's group. When a younger person is diagnosed, like yourself, Theresa, there's different challenges compared to perhaps an older person, and so it's quite good having a young person's group. Will be going through similar challenges, and we also have an advanced cancer group, so that's for people who don't just have breast cancer, but any type of cancer, who have non-curative cancer where their treatments may be ongoing, and that's a good space for them to be able to share together and support each other, but also like learn from each other. And we have a carers and family group, because what I hadn't realised until I came to work here at Maggie's, I've been working here for about 3 years, is we support family and friends just as much as the person with cancer. So we've got a really good supportive online group for that as well. And so health and well-being, we've got the mindfulness, relaxation, we've also got exercise, chair yoga, and the walking group as well. And you can access the exercise and chair yoga from online. So I'm just conscious I've been waffling on here, but I would encourage anyone who's affected by cancer in any way that you can give us a ring, or if you're in Inverness, just pop in. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and you can sort of check what's happening. We've got lots of different courses going on. So our Where Now course sort of addresses the time of when treatments are finished. A lot of people can have different emotions around about that time. They can be absolutely delighted. Yes, my treatment's out of the way, but also there's a kind of vacuum of time, and that's a time where maybe people don't feel as supported by their medical team, but also friends and family may have expectations that, well, you're better now, your treatment's finished. And people might have expectations on themselves as well to go, well, that's it, I've been through that, that's behind me. But actually, psychologically, that can be a time where that's where some people just start to reflect and think what their diagnosis actually has meant and the impact it's had.
Naturally feel lost with that when it comes to an end, because while you're going through treatment, you're focusing on the next one and on the next one, and then all of a sudden it stops, and it's like, oh, I haven't got a security blanket now. I'm not being treated, you know what I mean? I'm not having any treatment at the moment. Is that it? It's quite a difficult time, I think.
Yeah. So we've got a really good course, it's a 7-week course that addresses sort of different elements and psychological elements of having had the diagnosis, but also sort of thinking ahead as well. And someone said recently actually that was their worst time, was that point, and you wouldn't necessarily expect that, but it's every situation is very individual. It might not be for everyone. It's just it's quite insightful to hear that though. And we've got a Living with Less Stress course, which is really good, and that's for people who have had a cancer diagnosis, but also friends and family can link into that as well. So there's loads happening. We've got different workshops. We've got one on fatigue. Sort of fatigue is more than just kind of tiredness as such. A lot of cancer treatments, as a side effect, there's a particular type of fatigue. So we talk about ways of managing that, and chemotherapy, but also some anti-hormone drugs. They can cause memory and concentration problems as well. So we've got a good workshop that highlights what can be helpful for that. And we've got one on managing sleep as well. So we've got lots of different things. Oh, and menopausal symptoms as well as a result of cancer treatments. So there's lots happening. There's certainly, this is a space for all emotions, but when you come in, I think people are surprised at what a calm, lovely, soothing environment it is. So there may be someone who's very upset and actually crying in one part of the building, because it's an okay space to cry, you know, but also there could be lots of laughter and fun as well. So there's a real mixture of all that's going on in life. What was that?
Auntie and cake.
Absolutely. How could I forget about that? That was on my slide. That's why I've got, yeah, that's most important. So we've got the kitchen table. So just like in our own homes, some of our best discussions sort of capers and goings on happen in our kitchen. So that's the same here at Maggie's too. So with the pandemic, unfortunately, that's been very different. We've had to do social distancing and wear masks when we're walking around the building, but we'll see what happens as time goes on. So we've tried to replicate the kitchen table online. So when some people see that advertised, they think, was that about nutrition? No, it's actually just about zooming in and having a good chat over a cuppa, which can be about anything and everything, or it can be a very deep and meaningful discussion about what's happening in life. So yeah, I would just like to say thank you for inviting me. I'm absolutely delighted, and I've waffled on quite a bit, but I hope you've learnt some things about Maggie's. I'm very passionate about my job. I think this is an amazing place, and it's the people that come in that make this an amazing place. So thank you for inviting me along.
Yeah.
Any questions?
How are they signposted to you? You know, if you don't know about Maggie's, that's good, but if people don't know about Maggie's, how do they know about it?
So we're very fortunate in that quite often the cancer teams will signpost people to us. Not all of them do, but most do. And anyone who's new in their post at the cancer team, quite often they'll come across here to find out about what's going on. We work in collaboration with the NHS teams with some things, although we are different, we're a charity, but you know, we can get in touch with the specialist teams for someone if that's what they want, if that's helpful, or we can signpost them and give them contact details. And yeah, so we advertise, well, so that's the thing with Maggie's, we never spend any money on advertising at all. So any money goes into supporting people. So it is a lot word of mouth, really. And as I say, the healthcare professionals, we have a Facebook page. And yeah, I think that these are the key things.
Thank you, Amy. Does anyone else have any questions, either for Amy or for Theresa at all? No, that's fine. Thank you then. What we'll do, thank you so much for joining us, Amy.
Not at all. It's great meeting you all. I can just see a few people on the screen, but
yes. There are
but thanks. It's been great to be able to see you all, and great to see you, Theresa. So yeah, for anyone pop in, but especially so Theresa. It'd be nice to see you anytime. Okay.
And we'll be in touch with Maggie's as well, to see how we can work together and try and help you with being a bit more raising awareness, I think, really, of Maggie's and the support that you
so because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to be out and about, but I think we hope to maybe come out and about and do some workshops in people's local community, you know, so if that's something you'd like in your area, we'd be delighted to do that.
Yeah, okay, thank you, we shall speak soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.